Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome back to another video. And I do apologize that this is a late video, but I'm going to go ahead and bring you my top 10 favorite books of 2022. Now, I read 70 books last year, which is still a really good number for me, but there's a couple there's only like one repeat author on here, and it's not Stephen King, but he is going to be on this list. So I have like nonfiction, horror, and sci-fi on here. So kicking off at number 10, one of the first books I read last year in January, and I decided to go by month. So at number 10, I have Into the Wild by John Krakauer, and this tells the story of God, what is his name? I can't really remember his name now, but it's about this man who decided to go on a cross country road trip to Alaska and like live there in the wild. Well, that did not go good for him at all, and he passed away by severe dehydration. Well, he basically ate poison berries too, is what I remember. But this was a very decent nonfiction on that tragedy, and it's a really good movie starring Emile Hirsch. So that was Into the Wild. At number 9 is the first of 3 Michael Crichton novels on this list. I had a really good year with Michael Crichton. I read 12 of his books. So that one I want to mention is Timeline. And this tells a story of like an archaeological team who basically go back in time to like the medieval period. And what I remember is their professor gets lost and they have to save him. This is a really decent book. I read it back in February. So that was Timeline by Michael Crichton. And at number 8 is one of the few books that I read on my Kindle. I think I looked at it and I think I read like 3 or 4. But The Haunted Forest Tour by Jeff Strand. And this is basically Jurassic Park, but it had like more of a fantasy element to it. It's basically about this enchanted forest where a bunch of tourists get lost and they're hunted one by one. Really enjoyed it, and that was The Haunted Forest Tour. And at number 7 is going to be one of the first physical books I own. That's going to be All Shook Up, How Rock and Roll Changed America by Glenn C. Altshuler. And this is part of the pivotal moments in American history. And I had to read this for my history class in the spring semester. I think I read this in between January and February of last year. So this talks about 50s and 60s. Well, it's mostly 50s. But this talks about like the rise of Elvis, the day the music died, and a lot of other stuff. and I really enjoy music, so this was definitely uh, a great one. That was All Shook Up. And at number 6 is going to be The Dirt by Motley Crue. So, Vince Neil, Tommy Lee, Mick Mars, and Nikki Sixx. I blanked there for a minute. But I read this back in, I believe, the summertime. But this is just like a memoir all about like the rise and fall of Motley Crue, told by all of the band members. And there is a Netflix movie about this book. Highly recommend it if you're a Motley Crue fan. But I definitely enjoyed the book. Rounding out my top 5. Okay, I'm back. But this is the only Stephen King book on this list. On writing a memoir of the craft. And I hate to say it, but I did not have the best luck with Stephen King in 2022. I've only read 3 of his books plus 1 Bachman book. But this is the one I picked because this is all about like getting started in writing and how to pursue that career. I've mentioned this on my channel a couple times. I'm hoping to pursue writing. And I read this, and it definitely is a handbook to get started. But that was Stephen King on writing a memoir of the craft. And at number 4, it's going to be yet another nonfiction. This is Action Park, Fast Times, Wild Rides, and the Untold Story of America's Most Dangerous Amusement Park by Andy Mulvihill and Jake Rawson. So, I read this in the summertime, around like June into July. Or maybe it's July and August, but anyway, this is based off of Action Park. That was in Vernon, New Jersey in the 80s and 90s. And this park was notorious for being very, very dangerous with the Cannonball Loop, which is like a water slide that had a makeshift loop at the end. And this book really goes into detail about everything. I mean, there were parts of like people's teeth lodged into the Cannonball Loop, and it like caused people to like get cut very severely. So this was a really, really interesting nonfiction, and probably one of my favorite nonfiction books I've read. But that was Action Park. And at number 3 is going to be Sphere by Michael Crichton. Another book I listened to on Audible. And this is like The Abyss meets Alien. And I really, really enjoyed this one. So it's basically about like this group of, I guess you can call them like underwater explorers. And they unearth this mysterious craft at the bottom of the ocean. And then it opens up. It turns out to be like some futuristic race. But it's a really interesting novel. And I definitely recommend it. Sphere by Michael Crichton. And at number 2, it's going to be Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton. And, of course, it was made into like a very iconic 90s movie. And it's about this eccentric billionaire opening up a new nature reserve filled with dinosaurs. And then he has like all sorts of people go to invest in this park. Dinosaurs get loose, and it's a fun novel all the way around. So that was Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton. But my favorite read of 2022 is one of the last books I read this year, and that was Psycho by Robert Bloch. And this is, of course, based off of the Alfred Hitchcock horror classic is based off of this book. And I gotta tell you, this book, the movie follows the book to a T, except for one thing. Norman Bates is fat and kind of like a slob, and he's not really suave like Anthony Perkins. Very creepy novel, and if you don't know it, it's about this man named Norman Bates who runs the Bates Motel, and then a woman decides to spend the night, and his mother kills her. Major spoiler, but I'm sure a lot of people have read this book and seen the movie. So that was my favorite read of 2022, Psycho by Robert Bloch. And those were the 10 books I rated 5 stars in 2022. There's quite a bit more that I could have put on this list, but I just wanted to keep it at 10. So that's all I got for this video. Look forward to the movies I watched in December. I'll probably film that later on tonight. So look forward to that one. Might do my January TBR, and then might do like an author spotlight. So what I mean from that is reading books from authors that I do own and then returning to authors that I read. For example, I do want to read some Cormac McCarthy, so you'll see a couple books in that video. Riley Sager, Stephen King, and a couple others. So that'd be a really fun video to talk about. So look forward to more videos very soon, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios. Peace.